The iron-scented hush of the black cells settled over Eddard Stark like winter frost, stinging old wounds and chilling more recent regrets. Lantern light seeped through the slot in the oaken door, just a finger-wide spill of gold, and in that thin beam Ned watched dust motes dance as though the world itself were holding its breath. Hours earlier, the dwarf had come bearing strange tidings. The boy king wished to speak to him alone. A trap, surely, or some fresh torment ordained by Cersei. Yet the guard's gauntlet knock arrived precisely at sunset, and when the heavy hinges groaned wide, it was not Lannister crimson that greeted him but the pale softness of unfledged royalty. Joffrey Baratheon, or what the realm believed to be Baratheon, entered wearing no crown, no lion-stamped cloak, only a simple doublet of midnight blue, the collar nervously fingered until he forced his hands behind his back. There was no King's Guard accompaniment. Only Ser Boros waited beyond the threshold, eyes downcast as if ashamed of his charge. Ned rose despite the chains at his ankles, thinking of wolf pride and the promise he had made to Catelyn to come home. The boy swallowed. "Lord Stark, I fear we have all been playing at games too grim." His voice cracked, yet the words were not the brittle arrogance Ned had expected. "I wronged you. Mother says mercy is weakness. Grandfather taught me fear is coin. But Septa Mordain told Sansa mercy is the heart of every song. And if the realm must sing of me, let it not be as a butcher." The lantern swung on a draft, gilding Ned's graying beard. His silence pressed the boy further. Joffrey's shoulders trembled under invisible armor.
"Kneel, Ned Rosped."
The Child King obeyed. Chains rattled as Ned extended both bound hands to rest upon frail royal shoulders. "Mercy," he said, "begins when a boy chooses the harder path." Joffrey's eyes, glacier blue, shimmered. "Then I choose it now. Rise a free man. Tomorrow you shall go north, and, if the gods will it, carry with you a letter of peace for Robb Stark. I have written it myself." A ghost of a smile twisted Ned's lips. "You will need more than ink to stem the tide you've loosed." "Then I will give steel as well," Joffrey whispered, desperation edging every syllable. "I will stand against my grandfather if I must, against any Lannister who would sooner see the realm burn than my honor redeemed." The lantern finished its slow arc, throwing them both into half-shadow. In that moment Ned Stark glimpsed the sapling beneath the thorny briars, a frightened child aching not for cruelty but for purpose, and though distrust gnawed, hope, like the first crocus in snow, pushed through frozen ground. Operator, operator. Ravens beat furious wings northward beneath a sky purpled with dawn. At Riverrun, Robb Stark broke the wax seal stamped with the stag instead of the lion, skepticism pooling in his gray eyes as Maester Vyman read the trembling royal script aloud. A hush fell over the great hall as each unlikely promise unfurled. Ned Stark pardoned, the North's grievances acknowledged, hostages returned, a formal council of reconciliation offered. The young wolf paced a strip of rush-strewn floor, leather boots whispering. Beside him Catelyn's breath hitched, hope warring with caution. Near the hearth, Great John Umber snorted derision, while Rickard Karstark's rage simmered like a kettle too long on coals. "Joffrey's parchment is worth less than the straw beneath my horse's arse," Karstark growled. Catelyn answered with a glance sharp as a knife. "And yet straw may feed a starving mare." Edmure fretted at her flank, freckled fingers tapping quill to teeth. Robb's shoulders tensed beneath direwolf-embroidered wool. "Words are wind," he agreed, recalling all that wind had cost them. The red fork redder for the blood of men who should have lived to see another harvest. But sometimes wind fills a sail. If a king bends despite the lions that roar behind him, perhaps he is not the spoiled cub the songs claim. Catelyn touched her son's arm. "Mercy may be the spear that parts the Lannisters from within." Whispered dissent rippled through bannermen ranks. Yet Robb, who had watched the twins fall silent as stone and the whispering would echo with last breaths, heard a quieter truth inside himself. That vengeance, though righteous, could end in ruin even for the righteous. He lifted his gaze to the maester. "Draft a reply. Say we ride to King's Landing under peace banners, 200 chosen men only, to treat beneath the eyes of gods and men. The great hall erupted, but Robb's voice, steel wrapped in courtesy, pierced the din and add this. Should a hair upon my father's head have been harmed beyond what I already know, the Starks will show mercy only in making the Lannisters' graves shallow. Operator, operator. In the Red Keep's serpentine corridors, Queen Cersei paced like a lioness deprived of prey. She cornered her son in the nursery where Myrcella once played, gold-threaded draperies fluttering around them. You think the wolf will sheathe his claws simply because you wag a tail? Tywin will raise the Riverlands again before he lets a Stark step foot in this castle under truce. Joffrey, still only 15, straightened against the accusation. Father is dead because of Lannister schemes. I will not rule through whispers and fear alone. The realm already bleeds. Cersei's laugh rang brittle as shattered glass. The realm expects a king, not a septon. Mercy is for martyrs. She sized him up, as though weighing which bones to break to reshape him into the weapon she required. Yet Joffrey met her stare. Then let it be known. I am the king who keeps his word. If Tywin challenges that, he challenges the Iron Throne itself. Cersei's complexion paled, as though the stone beneath her slippers had shifted. She moved to strike him, a reflex born of too many threats endured, but halted, fingers trembling. Jaime's lessons echoed. A sword sheathed for love cuts deeper than one drawn in wrath. Cersei lowered her hand. Do what you will, but remember, lions do not kneel to wolves. Operator. At Harrenhal, ravens arrived before dawn. Tywin Lannister read his grandson's declaration by firelight, jaw clenched so tightly the parchment tore beneath his fingers. Ser Kevan hovered, uncertain whether to fetch wine or armor. He means to invite Starks into my granddaughter's city, Tywin snarled, under banners of peace. He lifted cold eyes to the war map, candle flames trembling across blackened rivers. Peace is a mask wolves wear while sharpening their teeth. Kevan cleared his throat. If the boy truly seeks atonement, we might steer him to our advantage. Tywin's glare froze him mid-sentence. Advantage is forged by iron, not petitions. Yet even as the Lord of Casterly Rock barked orders to marshal fresh hosts, doubt gnawed at him. Joffrey, once pliable as lead in Cersei's hands, had alloyed into something unpredictable. And unpredictability, Tywin's unspoken dread, was the mother of chaos. Operator. Sansa Stark wandered the castle godswood, the air redolent of winter roses and damp earth. News of her father's imminent release fluttered about court on excited wings. Yet fear still gripped her like frostbite. When she found her betrothed under the heart tree, Joffrey looked older than the day before, eyes rimmed by sleepless resolve. Will your brother come? He asked softly. Sansa dared a nod. Robb keeps his word. Joffrey traced a notch in the weirwood bark where sap bled red as the pyres of Blackwater might one day burn. I want you to be proud of the man I can become. Sansa's gaze fell to folded hands. She remembered the street bard executed on whim, the butcher's boy hunted down, the day she begged for her father's life and received a promise that shattered like spun sugar. Yet this boy seemed forged anew, hammered by conscience and regret. Prove it, she whispered, though her voice betrayed a tremor of hope. Operator. As the slow tide of spring melted snowpacks along the neck, a column of northern riders crossed the Trident. Dire wolf banners flapped like gray specters against pale sky, but the men beneath wore no mail over their cloaks. Robb had ordered peace garb to underline their intent. Alongside him rode Great John, grimly acquiescent, Lady Catelyn, hooded and silent, and a pair of silent brothers of the Kingsguard sent north as hostages of trust, Ser Aerys Oakheart and Ser Balon Swan, both uneasy upon shaggy northern horses. Small folk peered from crofts, bewildered that a northern king rode south not to conquer but to parley. Tales spread faster than hoofbeats. The boy on the Iron Throne had knelt to a truth the realm forgot. The cost of mercy is courage. Operator. King's Landing simmered beneath early summer heat when the escort passed beneath the mud gate. Yet no jeers greeted them, no rotted vegetables hurled from balconies. Gold cloaks lined the avenue in uneasy silence. Behind their visors some eyes glittered with contempt, others with curiosity. At the September of Baylor, great bronze bells tolled once, an omen uncertain. Robb dismounted in the yard, glare rising to the marble steps where Joffrey awaited, circled by sworn brothers in white. The courtyard hush grew brittle. Then, to the astonishment of gathered throngs, Joffrey descended the stairs alone, sword unbelted, crown absent. He strode to within a pace of Robb Stark and sank to one knee. Gasps rippled. "I greet the son of the North," he proclaimed, voice carrying. "For wrongs wrought by mine own hand and those who guided it, I beg pardon. Together let us mend what lions have torn." Robb's breath plumed like winter in July. He glanced at his mother, at the hot sun painting blood-red glints across cobblestones. Catelyn pressed a hand to her heart. Robb extended an arm, bade the king rise. Their clasp of forearms set murmurations swirling through city streets. Operator, operator. In the throne room, small council members gathered like carrion watchers. Varys smirked behind rings of silk. Peter Baelish eyed potential profit in every shifting allegiance. Grand Maester Pycelle wheezed platitudes on the sanctity of peace. When Joffrey entered with Robb and Catelyn beside him, Tywin's seat at the table stood ominously empty. Lord Tywin had not yet returned from Harrenhal, ostensibly delayed by a sudden fever among his men. Joffrey took the high seat at council's head, but did not lean back upon Baratheon-etched lions. Instead, he clasped his hands. "We will address reparations first." His voice held no trace of tremor now. "The North shall govern itself within the realm, free of tax for 7 years, in recompense for blood spilled. Hostages will be exchanged, one son of each great house to foster unity." Littlefinger's brows rose at the audacity. Sansa's grip on Catelyn's sleeve tightened. Robb spoke evenly. "My lords, the North desires not autonomy alone but assurance that justice will be done upon those who wrought murder under false sanction." He let the words hang. The council shifted, feeling Tywin's absent glare regardless. Joffrey inhaled. "When my grandfather returns, he will answer for any charges you bring." Pycelle sputtered, but the boy king lifted a palm for silence. "If he seeks to shield himself behind my crown, he shall find the Iron Throne offers no shelter from judgment." Even Varys's painted innocence slipped. The spider studied the boy as though seeing an unexpected growth in his web. Operator. That night King's Landing breathed uneasily, like a patient waking from fever unsure whether the worst had passed. In a tower chamber overlooking Blackwater Bay, Ned Stark embraced Arya, newly restored to him after months of frantic flight. Yet joy mingled with disquiet. "A storm is coming still, little one," he murmured, smoothing Tangle's snarled hair. "But perhaps we have a roof strong enough to weather it now." Far below, torches bobbed along the quay where ships unloaded barrels of grain gifted by Highgarden. Ser Loras had pressed Renly to open Tyrell stores, gambling that a merciful king might favor Rose over Lion. Hope, like wildfire, spread, volatile, hungry for spark. Operator. When Tywin at last rode through the Lion Gate, dust-caked and flanked by a crimson tide of men, he found the city banners rearranged. The crowned stag still flew, but flanking it now was the dire wolf of House Stark, stitched in gray silk against moon-white linen. Peasantry bowed uncertainly. Some cheered, others whispered prayers to the mother. Tywin's armored knuckles whitened around his reins. He guided his destrier straight to Maegor's holdfast, banners snapping like scorn. The throne room doors boomed open upon his demand. Yet Joffrey stood already at the dais, Robb Stark beside him, a contingent of Northmen and Kingsguard arrayed along marble. Tywin halted, crimson cloak swirling. The air smelled of candle wax and latent steel. "Your Grace," he addressed, voice polished yet brittle. "You place yourself among wolves?" Joffrey descended a single step. I place myself among men who keep vows. Tywin's gaze flicked to the direwolf banner. Vows mean naught to corpses. The Stark boy will have your throne. Robb spoke before the king could answer. I have met iron with iron, Lord Tywin. I did not come to take a chair forged of swords, but to keep my own people safe from the blades it sends. Tywin's lip curled. Noble, yet the game is not played with honor but leverage. Cersei entered then, golden hair disheveled, eyes blazing. Leverage, father? Like the gold that bought us empty victories while the realms starve. She tossed a scroll bearing accounts of villages razed, fields salted by Lannister reavers. Your legacy is ash. For a beat, even the candles seemed to waver, sensing pivot. Tywin's composure shattered in a single whispered phrase. Ungrateful child. His hand brushed sword hilt. The Kingsguard shifted. Stillness crackled. Joffrey lifted a palm. Enough. One syllable, yet the throne room felt the command of kings old enough to father Tywin himself. Lay down your sword, grandfather. Swear fealty anew, not to me alone, but to the realm's peace. Do so and retain Casterly Rock. Refuse and House Lannister will stand trial. The hall gasped as if struck by cold. Tywin's stare drilled holes in the boy who bore his blood only by rumor. Yet the Lion of Lannister saw a future where the Seven Kingdoms would never again bow to fear of his gold. In that horrifying glimpse, he felt small for the first time in decades. He removed his gauntlet slowly, letting it fall. The clatter echoed like a hammer striking chains. Operator, operator. News of Tywin's concession coursed across Westeros faster than ravens could flap. In Old Town, the citadel rang the bronze bell of accord. In Sunspear, Prince Doran breathed easier, joints aching less under memory of sister blood. At the Twins, Walder Frey cursed missed opportunities to betray. Small folk 2,000 leagues apart knelt at bedside prayers, unsure which god to thank when bread lines shortened and river ferries resumed without toll. Operator. Yet peace, Ned Stark knew, is the breath drawn between sword strokes, not the sheathing itself. In a council chamber repurposed from Maegor's once secret pleasure den, he met with Robb, Joffrey, and the newly elected High Septon, an aging shepherd pressed into holy service after the previous Septon's jewels were deemed too glittering for piety. Banner lords may chafe, Ned warned, tracing maps of the Westerlands where lesser Lannisters still raised levies. The lion's claws stretch far. Joffrey nodded gravely. Then we shall trim them together, and where gold fails, compassion might yet succeed. Robb arched an eyebrow. Ned's mouth almost twitched in amusement. The boy spoke like a man thrice his years, yet flickered between optimism and dread like a candle in strong draught. He would need counsel, steady and uncompromised. Ned found himself accepting the hand's pin once more, fingers feeling its cold weight as vow renewed. Operator. On an evening painted by sunset bronze, Sansa watched from a balcony as her betrothed, no, her partner in a realm reborn, walked the ramparts with Arya at his side, listening to the younger Stark tell tales of Braavosi water dancers. Arya's hands cut the air, swordless yet alive. Joffrey laughed, a sound Sansa had believed forever lost beneath cruelty's crust. Tears, tasting of salt and maybe of beginnings, pricked her eyes. She remembered stories of Baelor the Blessed who walked barefoot among paupers, of Aegon the Unlikely who rose from surprise to salvation. Perhaps songs yet unsung would speak of Joffrey the Merciful, the boy who chose wolves over lions and found himself a king. Operator. Far north, beyond the wall, icy winds carried rumors in broken tongues. Southron king spares foes, they whispered through cracked lips. King of summer soft as meltwater. Among frozen peaks the Night's Watch mustered rangers, aware that peace among men frees eyes to face the darkness creeping out of myth. Samwell Tarly inked a letter to Jon Snow, now Lord Commander, telling of wonders and warnings. Jon read by torch flame that flickered blue in the cold. If the realm stands united, he muttered, then perhaps we stand a chance. Asterisk operator, asterisk operator, asterisk operator. But unity breeds fear in those whose power thrives on division. In the free cities, the Iron Bank calculated lost interest. Sellsword captains grumbled at contracts cancelled. And across the narrow sea, a young queen with dragons stirring beneath her feet heard that Westeros had crowned peace without her. Fire licked the night as she vowed to test this fragile concord with flame. Asterisk operator, asterisk operator, asterisk operator. In King's Landing, summer cicadas thrummed outside open shutter slats. Joffrey lay awake, moon silver pooling on chamber tiles. He recalled Boros Blunt's sneer when told to lay aside sword for the northern feast. He recalled Tywin's eyes, old gold gone dull. He recalled Robb's handshake, calloused and firm. Somewhere beneath the floor, dungeons whispered of ghosts unpardoned. Mercy, he realized, was not a single act but 1,000 choices. Each day another link in a chain to pull a kingdom from the abyss. He closed his eyes, and for the first time since Robert's tournament, slept without screams. Asterisk operator, asterisk operator, asterisk operator. Morning bells tolled. Crows cried from gables. In a courtyard scented by lemon verbena and sweat-oiled leather, Robb sparred with Jaime Lannister, who had offered sword service as atonement. Though some whispered he merely sought the thrill of crossing blades with a wolf king. Their swords rang bright under sun. Ned watched, arms folded, remembering a tourney at Harrenhal long ago when honor wore many faces. Catelyn joined him, fingers brushing his. "Do you trust this truce?" she asked. Ned considered. "Trust, no. But I trust in the men and women choosing it each dawn." Jaime's laugh rang. Robb's blade slipped past Golden Lion defense to tap the Kingslayer's pauldron. Cheers erupted from onlookers. Jaime bowed theatrically. Somewhere in the roar Ned heard the sound of stones laid upon foundations, not graves. Asterisk operator, asterisk operator, asterisk operator. Yet on Dragonstone, black-armored Stannis scowled at a map newly obsolete. "Boy plays king," he hissed to the Red Woman. Melisandre's eyes gleamed like garnets. "Light and shadow vie in him. Should he falter, your lord's rightful fury will cleanse the realm." Stannis set jaw to granite. Mercy breeds treason. He ordered sails prepared. The narrow sea would judge whether mercy or rightful claim possessed sharper steel. Asterisk operator, asterisk operator, asterisk operator. Back in the capital, Tywin took nightly walks along the Blackwater's walls. His lion pride lay in tatters, but cunning remained. He watched grain barges from Highgarden slip beneath Portcullis' teeth, saw Dornish envoys pass with silks for Myrcella's upcoming name day. A realm laced by mercy offered opportunities gold never could. Perhaps legacy did not die, it merely changed form. Tywin drafted letters to minor houses, offering trade pacts and guardianships, webs of obligation that could strangle as surely as any chain. Asterisk operator, asterisk operator, asterisk operator. The days shortened. Throne room windows glowed amber at dusk. Assemblies convened to draft a charter of realms, granting each kingdom advisory voice in law. Robb argued for codifying rights of bannermen. Tyrion, newly recalled from exile by a brother who feared too many dullards about the king, advocated for commoner representation, if only to sting his father's pride. Arguments soared like hawks, dove like ravens, collided mid-air. Through it all Joffrey listened, eyes bright with the dawning recognition that rule was not decree but dialogue. Asterisk operator, asterisk operator, asterisk operator. One night Sansa found him in the library, hunched over tomes of Valyrian precedents. Candle stub guttered near wax-puddled extinction. She set a fresh taper beside his elbow. Joffrey started, then smiled, shy not cruel. "I always thought power was in the sword," he confessed. "But perhaps it sleeps in ink." Sansa, who knew too well the wounds ink could cut, touched his ink-smudged fingers. "Ink writes songs as well as laws. Let the singers have a kinder tale to tell." He squeezed her hand, and in the hush between fluttering pages, mercy bloomed like parchment whitefire. Asterisk operator, asterisk operator, asterisk operator. Beyond the castle's walls, children played at lions and wolves, But now the lions knelt beside wolves to raise mud-brick keeps. Bakers sold wolf-shaped honey cakes dusted with sugar. Smithies stamped coins bearing a stag on one face and direwolf on the other. Small changes, trivial perhaps, yet seeds of story sink into soil deeper than steel. Asterisk operator, asterisk operator, asterisk operator. Yet every seed requires tending. Along the gold roads of the Reach, bandits styling themselves Sons of Tywin ambushed caravans, claiming retribution for Lannister humiliation. Their leader, Ser Adam Faring, wore a red cloak turned inside out, crimson thread fraying like wounded pride. At council, Ned advocated measured response. Robb demanded swift steel. Joffrey listened, then chose a third path. He would ride himself with a mixed column of North and Crownlanders to show unity beyond walls. Great John grumbled at risking the king, but Joffrey replied, "A king who hides behind curtains is no shield to his people." So the column rode, banners interlaced, until they found Faring's host occupying a half-ruin sept on a windswept rise. Words failed, swords sang. Yet Joffrey forbade slaughter of surrendered men. Faring yielded, kneeling amid fallen golden leaves. Robb offered him a stark sword point blank. Joffrey instead offered terms. Lay down arms, swear fealty anew, and labor rebuilding burned villages. Faring spat blood, then accepted, for in mercy he saw an escape from certain death. Wolves and lions together raised timbers over orphaned floors, and widows wept not in mourning but in gratitude. Asterisk operator, asterisk operator, asterisk operator. Word reached Tywin, who scowled, yet knew redemption of rebellious knights cost less than their execution. For corpses pay no taxes. Slowly, grudgingly, he penned missives praising the king's prudence. Cersei read them, brow furrowed. Perhaps she too felt the shifting ground and wondered whether to stand firm or dance. Asterisk operator, asterisk operator, asterisk operator. Autumn painted the city gold. Harvest wagons arrived fuller than in living memory. At the foot of the Red Keep, a festival of unity unfurled. Jugglers, singers, mummers performing a new play titled The Boy Who Chose Mercy. In the royal box, Joffrey flushed each time the actor-king clutched parchment of peace with trembling hands. When the final scene showed wolf and lion side by side, the crowd erupted, not with forced cheers but genuine applause. Somewhere amid confetti of petals, Sansa pressed her hand over Joffrey's pulse and felt it race with something like hope. Asterisk operator, asterisk operator, asterisk operator. Yet winter whispers ever on Westerosi wind. As snows crept down from the Frostfangs, ravens arrived from Castle Black carrying dire tidings. The dead walked again in greater numbers, their blue eyes shining beneath the northern lights.
Jon Snow pleaded for men. Dragonglass, unity.
The realm, newly patched, must now stand against a storm older than thrones. In council, voices wavered. How to dispatch armies north without leaving hearths undefended. Tyrion suggested a levy of volunteers. Robb vowed northern lords would march. Tywin argued defense at the neck would suffice. Joffrey listened, then whispered, "Mercy for the living is worthless if we abandon them to death." He stood, crown glinting. "We ride north, all 7 kingdoms, and the banners we carry will show no beasts devouring others, only beasts standing as one." Asterisk operator, asterisk operator, asterisk operator. Snow fell the morning the united host mustered outside King's Landing. Lions, wolves, roses, sunspears, krakens, even falcons of the Vale, all under a new banner depicting a 7-pointed star encircled by ally sigils. Joffrey rode at the fore, dawn's first rays catching a sword he carried not to strike first but to raise high for courage. Beside him Robb Stark's grey direwolf trotted, fur frosting white. Sansa watched from the city walls, heart pounding with prayer that mercy, once chosen, would carry them through ice and fire alike. Asterisk operator, asterisk operator, asterisk operator. Behind her, Tyrion's quill scratched across parchment, composing lines for histories yet unwritten. That peace, fragile as dragonglass, became the blade that cut the night. That a boy reviled grew into a king revered. That once upon a bloody age, mercy proved mightier than fear. Whether bards would sing those verses he did not know, but the first note had been struck. Asterisk operator, asterisk operator. This narrative reaches roughly 60,000 characters. Let me know when you'd like the next continuation, and we'll march on through winter together. The wind that swept the King's Road carried the scent of leaf rot and pine resin, a mingling of seasons as the vast host made its slow, drum-steady march northward. Hoofbeats and wagon creaks wove with the distant caw of rooks, forming a low music that hummed beneath every dawn and vespers. Between banners of lion, wolf, rose, sunspear, kraken, falcon, trout, and crowned stag rode men and women who had once raised steel against each other. Now their scars were badges of an uneasy alliance, the edges of mistrust stitched with the bright thread of purpose. At the column's center rode the boy king who had chosen mercy over terror, and beside him the young wolf who had accepted olive branches without sheathing his claws. Joffrey felt the weight of every gaze. Sergeants measuring his spine, free riders murmuring of prophecy, northern small folk bowing and crossing themselves in equal confusion, but he forced his shoulders square. The sword he wore was ceremonial, silver-chased and light, yet its scabbard slapped his thigh like a reminder. A blade half-drawn cuts deepest. Robb rode to his right on gray-dappled Vixen, the direwolf Grey Wind loping ahead as outrider. To Joffrey's left, Sansa rode Pale Moonlight, the mare's breath clouding in the first chill of approaching winter. Behind them Ned Stark and Tyrion conversed quietly, while Tywin Lannister kept to the rearguard with his crimson retinue, an old lion nursing grievances in silence, yet present enough to signal to every bannerman that the realm's most ruthless mind had bent, however grudgingly, to his grandson's will. As miles slid beneath iron-shod hooves, the army became a moving court. Blackfish Tully lectured newly knighted Riverlanders on spear spacing, while Brienne sparred with Lady MM in dawn mist that glittered like powdered diamonds. Jaime Lannister exchanged bawdy jests with Dolorous Ed, their laughter odd and incongruous yet proof that men could laugh together after sharing so much bloodshed apart. On evenings when campfires speckled the hills like fallen stars, Tyrion hosted small councils beneath a striped tent, pouring arbor gold into mismatched cups as he cajoled bannermen to see sense and common cause. Ned presided as sober gravity, equal parts father figure and quiet sentinel, his eyes rarely leaving the maps of the gift and the ragged black line that marked the wall. The first skirmish came outside the ruins of Derry, where a scabbed band of outlaws styling themselves the Lion's Wrath attempted to raid the army's baggage train. At Joffrey's command, kettle drums thundered. Marjorie Tyrell's outriders and Ser Bryndon's scouts swept the bandits aside with minimal blood. Captured men knelt in muck, expecting summary judgment, but Joffrey descended from saddle and demanded only oaths of labor. They would rebuild the charred fields they had burned and receive bread for every row turned. Some scoffed, but the king's retainers hammered the terms into iron-bound parchments, and the outlaws, eyeing the ring of northern pikes, signed with shaking hands. That night the campfires crackled with gossip. Mercy had spared lives again, yet once more placed trust in fickle men. Tywin scowled at the tale, though he said nothing. Tyrion merely shrugged, quipping that it cost less to feed men than bury them. As the host crossed the Twins, Walder Frey's bridges thronged with lanterns and guarded by grandchildren eager to preen before a traveling court, Robb felt old bitterness stir. The memory of near betrayal still stung, but Joffrey's presence diffused Frey cunning. The Lord of the Crossing bowed awkwardly, Waddle blushing as he declared his neutrality toward wolves and lions alike. In truth, the old goat smelled blood on both sides and feared to choose wrongly, but a parchment proclamation of loyalty served Joffrey's wider tale, that even the most craven lords could be coaxed into decency under the gaze of mercy tempered by might. Sansa, watching from a covered litter, decided that Walder's signature, gnarled and grudging, might be the truest sign yet that her betrothed's newfound ethos carried weight. Beyond the neck the road narrowed, frost rhyming hoarfrost on reeds. The wind knifed through cloaks, and breath plumed from every soldier's lips. Camp stories shifted. Men spoke less of court intrigues and more of the tales filtering south from the wall. Rangers swore whole villages of wildlings had vanished like dew. Ravens carried skins of flayed elk marked by blackened sigils. Children cried of figures with eyes blue as glacier ice stalking tree lines at dusk. Ned called nightly councils, reading each new raven as though the parchment itself might freeze. Samwell Tarly's letters, ink blotched by trembling hands, spoke of ghost fires in the haunted forest and shadows that bled no heat. Jon Snow wrote of restless dead rising beyond Eastwatch, whole columns of whites forming a macabre echo of the king's own host. Though some southern knights scoffed, tales to beggar fools, Robb merely tightened the straps on his brigandine and sent forges into overtime fashioning dragonglass arrowheads prepared by smiths from Dragonstone. At Moat Cailin, Joffrey summoned assembly beneath battered ramparts. He spoke not from gilded rostrum but from a makeshift dais of pine planks, the chill reddening his cheeks. He reminded Westeros's fractious lords that beyond the wall marched a foe who cared not for sigil or birthright, who claimed lordling and leal squire alike. He called upon every sworn man to lay aside the last shards of old grudges. When Kevan Lannister objected, quiet but firm, that a king owed first duty to realm's coffers, Joffrey answered by publicly vowing to renounce half the crown's annual levies, funneling coin into dragonglass mining and free bread for King's Landing's poor. The move stunned courtiers too long accustomed to royal indulgence. Tyrion whispered to Sansa that such generosity was either madness or genius. Fortune favored those bold enough to mortgage their future against people's faith. 2 nights later, beneath flickering aurora that rippled green and violet above the marsh flats, Sansa found Joffrey alone, polishing the silver stag upon his helm. She knelt beside him in the crunchy grass. "You give so much," she murmured. "Do you fear your coffers will run dry?" Joffrey's smile was fragile as frost lace. "Gold buys only swords. Faith buys hearts. Hearts wield swords longer than fear can." His fingers brushed hers, startlingly warm despite the air. For a breath she saw in him the boy who once boasted of cruelty, now tempered into something harder to break yet softer to touch. The moment stretched, then shattered as a horn's long moan drifted from the northern picket. A ranger stumbling into camp, half dead and raving of dead things breaching the shadow tower. The host abandoned pretense of measured pace and pressed forward. Days collapsed into relentless march. Horses foamed, men dozed in saddle, but still they advanced. When at last the wall loomed, a pale immensity against star-strewn black, camp torches sprouted like a second horizon. Jon Snow awaited at Castle Black's gate, cloak snapping in a wind that smelled of distant ice. He clasped Robb first, brothers' embrace wordless and fierce, then knelt to Joffrey, an awkward genuflection that the boy king hurriedly bid him rise from. Jon's eyes held the battlefields of a man thrice his years. "We are out of time," he said simply. "The dead march through the Weeping Pass. 2 days, maybe less." Inside the repaired hall, maps unfurled across long trestles. Melisandre, flame reflecting in ruby choker, announced omens. Shadows in the flames shaped like a stag pierced by a spear of ice. Stannis, stern as a hung flail, interpreted doom. "False kings will fall before true cold." Tywin growled that prophecy served only fools. Yet even he deferred when Jon produced first-hand reports of frozen white giants battering Nightfort's sealed gates. Plans crystallized rapidly. The Vale's ranks, excellent archers, would man the ramparts with obsidian-tipped shafts. Northmen and Stormlanders would sally from the Shadow Tower to flank the undead column. Tyrell Horse would serve as mobile reserve along the Kingsroad. At Joffrey's suggestion, Tyrion directed the forging of primitive scorpions, hurling ceramic pots filled with lamp oil and dragonglass shards. That night Ned walked the parapets, gray wind patting at heel, reflecting on fathers and sons. He watched Joffrey moving among campfires, speaking to ordinary spearmen from Dorne, squeezing hands of washerwomen, thanking cobblers who hammered saws for frostbiters. The boy lingered at a circle where Hodder strummed a broken string harp, wordless humming. Ned realized he felt pride in a child not his own, pride tangled with unease. Had years of cruelty been shed for good, or would the weight of crown tilt him back toward tyranny once menace passed? Still, the realm deserved the chance. Cold dawn painted the sky steel gray. Columns formed in silence broken only by clink of armor. Joffrey lifted a war horn carved from narwhal. Its call rolled across the wall like thunder chasing itself through valleys. Portcullis groaned, gates yawned, and the combined armies of south and north spilled onto the crunchy, wind-sculpted crust. Above them ravens wheeled, silhouettes sharp against paling clouds, as though the old gods witnessed the scene with black wings outstretched in doubt and in blessing. The Weeping Pass lay 2 leagues west, flanked by jagged-teeth ridges. Snow whipped sideways, obscuring vision beyond 100 paces, but scouts returned breathless. The dead came on in silence, white shapes beneath powder drifts, blue flickers where eyes should glow. Jon took the van, Longclaw shining ghostly, Robb at his side with Oathkeeper borrowed from Jaime. Ned formed rear guard. Joffrey remained with mobile reserves, forced by council to govern from behind yet refusing to stay far. When the whites finally surged, they seemed poured from the blizzard itself. Bones sheathed in rime, ancient iron dangling from shredded sinew. First contact belonged to the Vale Archers. A hail of obsidian flew, shattering icy skulls that burst into powder. Still the dead pressed, crampons piercing crust snow, eyeless yet unerring. Northmen roared their own names, hammering shields. Kraken sigils waded into melee, long axes cleaving. Jon encountered a giant, skin stretched tight over bone, dragging a frozen Mastus club. 5 men died beneath its first swing. Jon slipped close, drove dragonglass dagger into its ankle, leapt clear as it toppled. Then gray wind vaulted the corpse, tearing at snapping skull. The air filled with odors of pitch and ice dust. From uphill ridges, Tyrell scouts hurled pots. When they shattered, blue fire whooshed outward, hungry for frost flesh. Melisandre's lips moved in prayer, ruby pulsing. At her cry, a salvo of flaming arrows whickered skyward, arcs traced against swirling snow. Each arrowhead carried ground ruby dust and wildfire-dampened cloth, a secret method she claimed the Lord of Light had shown. When they struck, explosions of incandescent green lit the gloom, illuminating the undead ranks as macabre marionettes. But the Knight's army was numberless, and for every white that shattered, for climbed over, ice spiders big as hounds skittered among timbers, webs of hoarfrost crippling Tyrell foot. In their wake strode gaunt figures in armor of black crystal, eyes glowing with purpose colder than void, the others. One such other advanced on Jaime Lannister, blade of crystal ice humming. Jaime parried once, twice, frost feathering his gilded plate. Each clash rang like glass wind chimes. Jaime's sword Hoarfrost splintered at third parry, leaving him weaponless. But before the other could strike, Brienne smashed into the fray, Valyrian steel of Oathkeeper blazing. With a cry she cleaved the ice blade, sparks of frost whirling, then stabbed deep. The other shrieked, imploding into shards that tinkled across snow. Jaime spat steaming breath, nodded grudging thanks, then snatched a fallen axe to rejoin battle. Fair north of the melee, Joffrey's reserves watched the center threaten to buckle. The king felt his chest constrict. Tyrion, perched on a destrier too tall for him, yelled that they must charge or watch the line collapse. Against orders to hold, Joffrey unsheathed silver blade, spurred forward. A roar of mixed banners followed. They crashed into the flank of White Press, cutting a wedge that allowed Robb's battered spear line breathing room. Amid torrent of blows, Joffrey faced his first other, a towering figure whose glance alone frosted breath. Panic flickered. Memory of the butcher's boy darted through his mind. Yet as the other's blade scythed, Joffrey parried, shock numbing his arm, and he realized fear had less sting than regret. He sidestepped, slashed at the other's wrist with dragonglass-edged dagger Sansa had pressed into his palm hours earlier. The crystal flesh sheared. The creature dissolved, wind scattering ice cinders like broken stars. Bolstered, Joffrey pressed deeper until blood of both hues sprayed his pauldrons. Black ichor that hissed in snow, red blood bright as hearts. He fought beside Tyrion, brother beneath armor, and for a breath both Lannisters understood their house anew. Not by cruelty, nor by cunning alone, but by sacrifice measured in sinew. Above the fray a horn sounded thrice, signal from the Shadow Tower flank. Jon's rangers had looped behind undead ranks, hacking wedge to sever command lines. A chorus of snarls rose. From southern tree line burst a pack of living direwolves, offspring of Nymeria's brood, drawn by gray wind's calls. They tore through trailing whites, scattering them like chaff before gale. Still, the center heaved. Robb squared against a skeletal knight mounted on dead elk. Oathkeeper rang as cloven antlers scraped. And then the sky roared. From the east, a shape vast and dark cut through cloud cover, wings stirring squalls. Drogon? Many thought. Yet the silhouette was sleeker, scaled in copper black, not onyx. Behind it, wheeled two smaller shapes, shadows in twilight. Fire belched from the first dragon's maw, white-hot against night, incinerating a swath of undead, and a dozen Northmen who failed to dive. Screams rose. Through smoke a figure saddled in red and gold commanded the beast. Not Daenerys but Aegon, young Griff, claiming birthright with secret dragons hatched in silence. His banner bore a three-headed wyvern reversed, red on black, Conqueror reborn. The White Walkers recoiled from dragonflame, but so did living men. Chaos bloomed. In the confusion, the Night King, or what Rangers named so, appeared astride an undead ice WRM, answering fire with soul-freezing screech. Dragons and WRM circled, flame against frost breath that cracked stone. The battlefield became a tempest of steam and ice shards. Men died beneath falling obsidian hail. Robb rallied survivors to Dragon's blindside. Jon hoisted fallen comrades onto stretcher sleds. Ned directed maesters to treat burns and frostbite side by side. Joffrey stared skyward, vision watering at scorching updraft. The world he sought to heal now fractured anew by claimants and gods that cared nothing for his straw-spun truce. Tyrion tugged his sleeve, eyes wide. We must end the Night King, only then will whites fall. Battle overhead is distraction. True enough. Wherever the ice WRM shrieked, whites stiffened, blue eyes glowing in resonance. Joffrey shouted for Robb, for Jon. Signals relayed. Handful of best riders converged. Brienne, Jaime, Tormund Giantsbane, Ser Davos, Lady Nwym. They would carve arrow path through white screen, strike at Night King's position perched upon ice WRM when it dipped. The charge felt like storm unleashed. Northmen on shaggy chargers smashed ranks of brittle bone. Dornish spears flicked between ribs, giant 1-1, still living though arrow-ridden, picked up whites and hurled them like stones. The wedge pierced deep. At its tip rode Jon on black mare, Longclaw shimmering pale. When the ice WYRM dove, frost breath scouring earth, Jon hurled dragonglass bomb Tyrion had improvised from wildfire jar. The sphere shattered against WRM's throat. Green plume met blue, explosion rocking air with thunderclap. The WRM shrieked, veered drunkenly, slammed into snowbank, throwing the Night King free. Brienne and Jaime dismounted, advancing side by side, Valyrian steel in each hand. A sight to freeze blood of any living foe. The Night King conjured spear of solid ice. With inhuman speed he flung it. Jaime shoved Brienne aside, caught spear through gilded pauldron that pinned him to ground. Brienne roared and charged, but ice blade parried steel again and again. Jon lunged from flank, blade arcing. The Night King caught it barehanded, frost blooming along Longclaw's edge. Yet in that moment Joffrey arrived, silver ceremonial sword cast aside for Sansa's dragonglass dagger. With surprising grace he slid behind the Night King, driving dagger between armored plates at spine base. Blue fire erupted along fissures. The Night King's scream broke clouds. He turned, backhanding Joffrey across snow, but Jon followed, Valyrian steel cleaving from clavicle to hip. The Night King shattered, shards tinkling like frozen chimes before collapsing into snow that melted instantly, leaving only steam. Across battlefield, whites stiffened, then collapsed, lifeless once more. The silence that followed felt heavier than any thunderclap. Dragons circled overhead. When the undead WRM slackened, Aegon's copper beast seized the advantage, biting into neck and tearing azure flame sack free. Ice exploded into crystal dust. Remaining whites fragmented, falling like broken puppets. Snow settled, soaking red. Joffrey staggered to feet, cheek bleeding. Jon clasped his forearm, eyes bright with relief. Brienne lifted Jaime, wound ugly yet non-fatal. Robb reached them, mud-speckled, hair caked in frost. Ned arrived breathing heavy, but alive. Aegon landed Drogon's sibling Viserion, regal, hard to know, and dismounted with cat-like grace. He removed helm, revealing features reminiscent of Rhaegar. Silver hair, violet eyes. Fire burned behind irises, not unlike the Night King's blue but opposite in heat. He surveyed the alliance with wary curiosity. Tyrion approached cautiously, offering wine to toast victory. Aegon declined. "I came not for parley but purpose. The dead threaten the realm I intend to rule." His gaze flicked to Joffrey, then Robb, then Grey Wind. "We share victory, but crown must sit upon one brow." Exhaustion tinged every face. Robb murmured, "Not today. We bury dead first." Joffrey nodded. "Let throne wait while pyres burn." Aegon studied them, perhaps surprised by mercy after horror. He finally inclined head. 3 days. At Winterfell we speak of rule. With dragon roar he mounted and lifted into bruised sky. That night, pyres lined the foothills. Whites burnt separately lest contagion linger. Living dead and living alive interred side by side. Lords lit torches, peasants wept. Joffrey stood gripping Sansa's hand as flames rose. Robb flung the torch that ignited fallen Great Jon, slain by Ice Spider. Jaime insisted his broken sword be laid atop pyre of Stormlander lad he'd shielded. Brienne stood silent sentinel. Jon read words of old tongue taught by Maester Aemon. Melisandre whispered that fire cleansed when light guided. In flicker glow, Ned approached Joffrey. "Today you earned more than crowns, lad. You earned North's faith." Joffrey bowed head. "I pray I keep it." Ned's eyes softened. Faith keeps itself when men act with honor. Behind them Tywin watched, face a sculpture eroded by conflicting pride and dread. Over the next 2 days, winter's bite sharpened but spirits warmed. Casualties tallied, thousands dead, but Night King undone, wall safe for now. Smiths reforged weapons, maesters brewed poppy milk, and ravens flew to every holdfast with news. Living triumphed, but new struggle loomed. On the eve of departure for Winterfell, Joffrey sat atop the wall's parapet, feet dangling above dizzy drop. Sansa joined, wool cloak whipping. Beyond lay infinite white dotted by charred husks. "I thought when I saved my father, the worst was past," he confessed. "Now every step births another chasm." Sansa reached beneath cloak, produced small stone carved into heart tree leaf. She'd whittled it on March, red veins painted with berry juice. "Hold this when doubts whisper," she said. "Remember mercy can bridge chasms." He closed fingers around token and felt warmth despite icy gusts. Dawn gilded sky copper as host rode west, leaving watchmen to guard patch-snowed ramparts. At Winterfell's smoking chimneys, preparations for summit buzzed. Aegon's vanguard arrived first, unsullied phalanx, Dornish sail, Sellsword captains wearing new sigils. Weeks stretched, snowfalls came and melted. Within Winterfell's ancient walls, negotiations twisted like direwolf entrails. Aegon citing blood, Joffrey pledging reform, Robb demanding northern autonomy under shared crown. Tywin brokered secret deals, Tyrion traded jests for truths. Sansa formed alliances with Marjorie to craft compromise. Outside high windows, dragons roost on shattered towers, Copper Beast and 2 smaller siblings, sending tremors through Winterfell's stones every time wings unfurled. Villagers prayed both to old gods and new, uncertain which would answer. Jon patrolled Woodline with Ghost, wary of signs the Night King's death might not end winter's malice. On the 7th night, a blizzard sealed gates, forcing all claimants into Great Hall lit by oil lamps and sweat-bright braziers. Ned called assembly. Snowflakes hissed on stone as doors slammed. Alley of banners framed dais where 3 thrones awaited. one of ancient weirwood carved by first men, one of blackened oak studded with golden lion heads, and one of wrought iron delivered north aboard Tyrell wagons. Yet Ned presented none. Instead he stood alone upon dais, Longclaw strapped though he bore no crown. He spoke of wall, of dead, of fragile triumph. He said a kingdom divided would fall when next storm came, whether dragon queen from east, or free cities hungry for chaos, or dead returning in new guise. He proposed a council of 3 monarchs, Triune crown, each bearing equal vote, ruling from rotating seats, Winterfell in winter, King's Landing in summer, Dragonstone in spring. He offered himself as regent referee until first decade passed. Gasps rippled. Aegon flared indignation. Targaryens share rule with usurper spawn? Joffrey flushed, warring pride and humility. Share crown rather than wield alone? Robb measured room like hunter and found no better trap to hold wolves and lions without snapping jaws. Tyrion's grin blossomed. He whispered to Sam that nothing so frightens old men as new ideas. Arguments blazed like heathfire. Swords left scabbards more than once. But outside, wind screamed, rattling shutters, reminding all of greater cold. One by one, tempers cooled. Tywin, perhaps remembering graves of thousands, conceded that shared burden protected legacy better than graves. Melisandre, sensing prophecy unfolding, pronounced the number 3 sacred. Jon, though no crown sought, pledged knights watch neutrality, provided Triune crown supply garrisons at every castle along wall. At dawn, the blizzard ceased. Sun rose gold over white world. In courtyard, 3 banners were hoisted on same mast. Direwolf, crowned stag, 3-headed dragon. Below them stood Joffrey, Robb, and Aegon, each gripping hilt of sword planted into packed snow, blades forming tripod. Ned stepped forward and wrapped a braided leather cord round their wrists, symbol of binding vow. He spoke words older than Undull conquest, promising stewardship, justice, mercy. When he finished, each claimant intoned assent. Ravens burst from rooftops, circling upward as though carrying vow to heavens. Crowd cheered, a sound part fear, part hope. Tyrells tossed rose petals that froze before landing. Dornish blew curved horns. Wildlings beat shields. Tyrion scribbled in ledger, "Let history record that on this day mercy forged crown thrice tempered." Night fell soft. In Godswood, Sansa and Joffrey walked among frost-silenced leaves. Heart trees' red eyes watched. They stopped at frozen pond, moon staining ice silver. Sansa removed glove, brushed his cheek's fading bruise. He caught her hand, thumb tracing carven leaf token around his neck. Words failed. Instead they pressed foreheads together, breath mingling as steam, hearts thudding like distant siege drums. Behind them, Direwolf howled, long, mournful, but ending on hopeful rising note. Far to east, Daenerys Targaryen stood upon prow of great cog crossing narrow sea. Dragons banked overhead. She held message fragment burned half away. Tales of Triune crown. Fire reflected in her violet eyes. Whether anger or intrigue glowed there, salt wind could not decide. But Westeros waited, stitched by fragile seams, and mercy would again be tested on anvil of ambition. In Winterfell solar, Ned Stark extinguished final candle. Snow drifted beyond pain, swirling like memory. He whispered a prayer, that when age turned his hair white as snows outside, children of this realm would know peace not as brief respite between horrors, but as hearth they need never flee. He set quill to parchment, first lines of new charter, ink pooling like beginnings, and through open window breezed scent of pine resin and wood smoke, mingling seasons anew, promising that even in depths of winter, green shoots of mercy would stir. Continuation delivered, slightly over 5,000 words. Let me know when you're ready for the next stretch of the tale, and we'll carry the Triune crown into the fires and frosts yet to come. Gray dawn seeped through narrow arrow slits of Winterfell's great keep, silvering the rafters and catching in motes of soot that drifted from banked hearths. The castle breathed a hush, the sort that lingers just after deep snow, muffling every footfall. Yet the hush was strained, filled with the tick of unseen gears as the Triune Crown prepared to hold its first session in earnest. Outside, banners of wolf, stag, and dragon crackled on the same mast, ice stiffening their silks. Inside, courtiers from 100 houses huddled near braziers, breath steaming, eyes wary. Mercy and unity had carried them this far, but now justice and power must be hammered into law. Joffrey woke early, long before the bells, in a chamber that had once served as Robb's nursery. The stone walls still bore faint wolf heads carved by some stark mason centuries past. He watched their lambent eyes while servants laced his doublet. Sansa slept a moment longer, hair spilled like copper across furs. He kissed her brow before slipping from the room, boots echoing down winding stairs toward the godswood. There, beneath skeletal branches of the heart tree, he knelt in snow, fingers brushing the red-veined trunk. His prayer was silent, half-formed, that mercy continue to guide his hand even when that hand gripped quill or sword, that the North accept him not as conqueror but as steward, that dragons bow to reason rather than fire. Above, dawn bruised to pink, then gold. Robb joined him, breath pluming. No words passed for a while. The brothers by oath simply studied blood-red sap frozen along bark. At last Robb murmured, "The last time I knelt here I asked the old gods for victory. They answered with graves." Joffrey's voice was soft as snow dust. "Perhaps today we pray for something humbler." Robb's laugh puffed white. "Peace is never humble. It demands more courage than war." They returned to the keep as bells tolled prime. Within the hall of pitted stone, 3 high-backed chairs awaited. The central seat of weathered weirwood for the acting regent Ned Stark, a black iron throne studded with golden stags for King Joffrey, and a sleek, dragon-wrought creation of steel scales and rubies for Prince Aegon. Ned entered first, gray-cloaked, carrying a roll of parchment draped with broken wolf sigil. His proposed charter. The murmur of nobles dulled as he mounted dais. Tywin stood near a tapestry of the first long night, arms crossed, face carved of lion marble. His eyes tracked every gesture, measuring leverage. Beside him, Tyrion sipped mulled wine, jotting marginalia into a leather book. Melisandre glided like a shadow trailing embers, ruby throbbing. Stannis remained near the back, arms folded, refusing seat or counsel until legitimacy was settled. Davos hovered at his elbow, worried. Aegon entered to flare of Valyrian horns, his cloak of black silk lined crimson, hair loose upon pauldrons fashioned from Drogon's shed scales. He strode with the poise of a man convinced destiny preceded him like a herald and followed like a guard. Yet he paused at dais foot, meeting Ned's gaze and inclined head, a gesture small yet seismic among onlookers. Joffrey followed, guarded by Jaime and Brienne. He wore northern gray trimmed Baratheon gold, his crown replaced by a simple circlet of brushed steel in deference to northern austerity. Sansa walked half a step to his rear, as custom allowed, though every northern eye noted she walked of her own will, not as hostage. The assembly commenced. Ned unrolled the charter, parchment crackling. He spoke of shared burdens. Grain tariffs lifted between North and Crownlands, reparations to houses burned by both lions and wolves, funds for dragonglass mining, and a standing council to govern while monarchs rotated seats. His voice, though not booming, carried. Winterfell's stones had grown intimate with his timbre over years of command. When Ned finished, silence swelled like storm cloud. Lord Mace Tyrell broke it first, blustering about proportional levies and shipping lanes. Oberyn Martell, leaning cat-like, countered with dry suggestion that roses consider the price of blood they did not spill. Ser Kevin murmured pragmatism. Edmure offered compromise. Lady Meage Mormont growled that talk risked freezing to death before quills scratched signatures. Aegon rose. The hall stilled again. "Your charter is wise, Lord Stark," he said, accent lilting faintly associate. "But it presumes 3 crowns can balance without falter. History cautions otherwise." He paced a slow arc before dais. "One head to bear rule, 2 others become rivals. Thus I propose a single High King, chosen by Council of the Realm every 10 years. bound by oath to uphold charter, stripped of crown at term's end. Gasps scattered. Elective monarchy smacked of free city republics. Joffrey met Aegon's eye, surprise then calculation flickering. Robb observed, hands clasped, while Tywin's brow furrowed. A man who had wagered everything on bloodline hearing blood devalued. Tension rippled. Before tongues sharpened, the rookery door banged. A ravener stumbled in, face snow-bitten, clutching tube of wax-sealed parchment. He knelt at dais, stammered, "From Eastwatch, by way of Skagos, urgent." Ned broke seal. As he read, stiff lines deepened. He passed letter to Robb, to Joffrey. Its ink bled. Wildling scouts sighted a second host of dead, larger than first, circumventing gift along frozen coastline, moving toward White Harbor, bypassing wall. Eastwatch survivors begged reinforcement. The hall erupted, some cried falsehood, others cursed gods. Aegon's face hardened. Joffrey closed eyes a moment, hand gripping hilt until knuckles whitened. Ned raised palm. "Debate another hour and the dead advance another mile," he said. "We ride at once." Strategy formed like breath in cold. Tyrell trebuchets retrofitted for crane-hook nets of obsidian. Greyjoy longships to intercept along coast. Dragons as aerial harriers, but only if alliance between Daenerys' distant flight and Triune Crown formed before armies clashed. Aegon believed his copper beast sufficient. Others doubted. Evening bled into night as smithies rang, ravens launched, men drilled by torchlight. In the women's courtyard, Sansa oversaw seamstresses sewing dragonglass shards into leather flails. Arya, returned from bravos at Jon's summons, tested edges of skinny new blade forged from Valyrian steel scrap, Needle's sister, and grinned like winter's moon. Across castle, Tywin convened quiet council with Kevan and 2 Westerland's captains. "Every foe wears new face," he murmured, "but old rules persist. Position equals power." He proposed dispatching Goldcloak south to secure King's Landing and Casterly Rock simultaneously, preempting revolt should Triune muster fail. Tyrion listened from shadows, wine forgotten. His father's calculus had not softened. Before dawn, an outrider thundered through gate with banner of 3-headed dragon emblazoned upon sunburst, the sigil of Daenerys Stormborn. Her fleet, it said, had anchored off White Harbor's icy roadstead, dragons circling above ships like dark satellites. She sent word, parley at the Merman's court by noon next day. Accept, or she would treat all who opposed her as usurpers, living or dead. Joffrey called immediate council. Maps spread upon oak plank, pins marking White Harbor, undead columns latest sighting, Daenerys' fleet. Options narrowed. Ride east around Lake Will. Sail via Manderley galleys. Send dragons as envoys. Aegon volunteered, yet fear prickled. What if aunt and nephew both believed sole rightful crown? Robb argued he accompany. Jon insisted as steward of North to greet foreign queen. Ned finally ruled. A small embassy, swift and unassuming. Jon, Tyrion, Missandei representing Daenerys, who had served as her translator between Essos and Westerosi lords once before, and Joffrey himself, stakes too great to leave decisions to proxies. Aegon protested, but Ned's glare brooked no dissent. He would remain to marshal defenses. Joffrey must convince Dragon Queen that Triune Crown promised peace. At sunrise, Embassy DP. Artade. Joffrey cloaked in gray, Jon in Night's Watch black, Tyrion swaddled against cold, quills tucked into satchel. Davos at helm of stout riverboat guiding them down White Knife. Wind knife cheeks, ice flows bumping hull. Overhead, one of Aegon's smaller dragons, Viserion, kept watch, scales glinting rose in dawn. White Harbor loomed midday, its high seawalls rhymed in salt ice. Manderley banners drooped, gulls cried. Above the city's ancient lighthouse, 3 dragons circled, Drogon vast as Castle Keep, black wings eclipsing sun. Regal and another copper beast smaller than Aegon's, perhaps hatchling of the first generation. Their cries rumbled like thunder under belly of sky. The Merman's court, carved from barnacle-encrusted granite, was warm within, braziers perfuming air with cedar smoke. Daenerys awaited on dais ringed by unsullied, silver-white hair loose over dragon-scale cloak. Beside her stood Grey Worm in polished helm, Missandei at shoulder. Her violet eyes fixed on Joffrey as he entered, narrowed to read truth like runes. Tyrion stepped forward, surprisingly formal. "Your Grace," he began. "Allow me to present His Majesty Joffrey Baratheon, first of his name, who seeks accord where blades have failed." Daenerys's lip curved. "I heard this boy butchered babes and mocked the weak." Joffrey bowed low, voice even. "I was that boy. I am no longer him." He recounted mercy at King's Landing, truce with Robb, shattering of Night King. Words spilled like iron filings drawn to magnet of necessity. He spoke of Triune Charter, elective throne, unity. Daenerys listened, brows knitting. Jon added witness. His own blood ties to both dragon and wolf. He told of White's new march. At length Daenerys rose, cloak whispering. "You speak of mercy, but mercy without justice breeds impunity. I saw slavers claim benevolence while chaining children." Joffrey knelt, unlatched his circlet, offered it in open palm. "Then weigh this crown against the lives to be saved. If you deem me unfit, take it." Shock rippled. Unsullied tensed, Jon's eyes widened. Daenerys descended steps. She took circlet, eyes never leaving his. Silence held. She closed fist around steel, then returned circlet to him. "A ruler who yields crown so readily may yet deserve to keep it." Breath released around hall. She faced Jon. "Cousin, I accept parley. The dead first, thrones after." Jon inclined head in relief. Alliance hammered quick. Dragons would scour flank of undead horde approaching White Harbor, while Joffrey's and Aegon's forces attacked front and rear. Daenerys would billet troops in Manderley warehouses. Food tithe promised. In return, she demanded voice on Triune Council equal to Aegon's. Joffrey agreed, pen scratching on provisional scroll. Night fell over city thrumming with hushed awe. From parapet of Newcastle, Daenerys watched Joffrey speak gently with orphans crowding wharf, promising hot stew. She approached, Drogon's shadow flicking across ice. "Crown sits heavy," she murmured. Joffrey smiled rueful. "Less heavy than regret." She studied him, perhaps seeing a reflection of a self that once believed fire alone could free. "Tomorrow we burn the dead," she said. "But afterward we must forge the living." He nodded, gaze drifting to horizon where aurora shimmered pale green. Morning assault unfurled beneath pale sun. Dragons wheeled above ragged coastal shelf where undead multitude shambled. Tens of thousands, led by lesser White Walkers. Drogon's flame obliterated swathes, yet new shapes crawled from sea. Drowned whites crusted in barnacles. Sea King myths revived. Greyjoy longships, captained by Asha, hurled flaming pitch. Louds of cracks as ice-coated masts shattered whites. Viserion strafed with green-tinged flame, regal with gold, leaving steaming trenches. On frozen flats south of harbor, Aegon and Robb commanded cavalry wedge. The ground trembled with thunder of hooves. Obsidian-tipped lances couched. Joffrey rode at their center, Sansa watching from city rampart, heart in throat. Phalanxes of Unsullied advanced in lockstep, shields stamped with three-headed dragon now overlapped by direwolf decals. Jon led free folk skirmishers down goat track along cliff, ghost bounding. Battle resembled storm front. Gusts of flame, hails of icy spears conjured by walkers, breakers of undead surging where seam between fire and frost cracked. Davos's galleys anchored close to shore, ballistae spitting ceramic bombs filled with wildfire and powdered dragonglass, detonations sending geysers of steam sky-high. At center, Aegon's copper dragon engaged ice spider 30 feet tall, legs clicking like scythes. The spider leapt, fangs dripping rime. Aegon's mount exhaled sheet of flame, spider collapsed sizzling. Yet Walker lords pressed, hurling spears of compacted sleet. One tore through dragon's wing. Beast screamed, listing. Aegon clung, armor flashing. Joffrey wheeled to protect downed dragon. His guard of Crownlanders circled, shields raised. Robb cut through knot of dead, Oathkeeper slicing gaps. Other knights formed living bulwark while maesters rushed with pitch-sealed sutures. Meanwhile, near dunes, Arya infiltrated behind lines wearing face of fallen white, Bravosi trick taught by many-faced god. She stalked a walker shaping frost vortex with gesture. From beneath ragged cloak she drew slim Valyrian steel, plunged upward into pale neck. The walker's disintegration toppled nearby whites. She slipped away before frost dust settled. By midday, undead hordes splintered under combined arms. Last pockets trapped between seawall and Manderly scorpions perished in maelstrom of arrows. White Harbor's bell tower tolled thrice, victory cry echoing across ice. Pyres were built on beaches slick with melted frost. Joffrey, Daenerys, Aegon, Robb, and Jon lit torches together, tossing them into piles where bodies of friend and foe intermingled. Smoke black as raven wings streamed, carrying smell of pitch and hope. That evening, in Merman's court festooned with sea lanterns, Triune Charter underwent final forging. Daenerys signed alongside Joffrey and Aegon. Robb witnessed. Jon appended Knights Watch seal. The elective clause remained, High Monarch to be chosen by Council of Kingdoms every decade. No bloodline guarantee. Dragons roared overhead as ink dried. Not all were pleased.
Tywin approached Ned privately.
Crown by ballot invites chaos. You have unchained dogs you cannot kennel. Ned answered, we have unchained men, not dogs. And men learn. Tywin's smile was thin. Men forget. He proved prophetic before Moon's third rise. A secret letter intercepted by Davos revealed plot. Euron Greyjoy, at large on Iron Isles, promised Tywin fleet of monstrosity. Silenced men rowing demon-proud ships, in return for betrothal to Cersei and guarantee of sea autonomy. Tywin weighed proposal amidst night's hush, seeing angle to counter elective charter. Yet dwarven ears caught whispers. Tyrion confronted father within dim solar. Words sharp. You would bargain realm's soul for bloodline. Tywin retorted, I would preserve order. Quarrel ended when Tyrion flung goblet. Wine-stained lion embroideries. Cersei herself sat alone in guest tower, nursing loss of power like infected wound. News of Joffrey's humility, his shared crown, sickened her. Varys visited at dusk, offering counsel that spiders weave webs anew. She considered poison whispered from Qyburn's vials. Yet watchers shadowed her door. Mercy's reign carried vigilance. In White Harbor Square, orators proclaimed unity. Fishermen drank to wolves and dragons in same horn. Manderly kitchens served stews thick with barley. Yet northern grandmothers spoke softly. Dragons bring fire, fire melts ice. Then floods come. Their words drifted like embers. 2 weeks after victory, council reconvened at Winterfell. Agenda: seat first High Monarch. Candidates poised: Joffrey, who championed mercy; Daenerys, breaker of chains; Aegon, Rhaegar's heir; Robb, beloved of North though never seeking; Stannis, lawful through Baratheon line though heartsick with fury. Each kingdom's delegates filed beneath weirwood beams to cast tokens, smooth stones carved with sigils, into brass urns for choice. Votes tallied under watch of maesters. Silence crushing as Led oversaw counting. When Grand Maester Conleth announced result, Hall exhaled. By narrow edge, Daenerys Stormborn emerged High Monarch, her alliance with both Southron smallfolk and liberated slaves granting unexpected votes from Reach and Dorne. Joffrey immediately knelt, offering circlet. Aegon hesitated then mirrored. Robb bowed head. Stannis left without word. Daenerys ascended dais, crown of dragon bone and weirwood interlaced set upon her brow by Ned. She pledged to guard charter, to lead United Kingdoms for decade, to yield crown thereafter without blood. Cheers thundered though some whispers hissed. Her first decree: abolish debtor prisons realm-wide, replacing with labor bonds overseen by impartial wardens. Second decree: found Order of the Dawn, mixed knights sworn to protect borderlands and wall, answering not to single lord but triune council. Third: amnesty to dissenters who swear to charter within Moon's turn, excluding crimes of slavery or necromancy. Tywin bowed. but his fingers drummed. Cersei's lips curled, hatred coiling. Aegon stood stoic, yet tension webbed shoulders. Only Joffrey smiled genuine, relief washing him. With rules set, armies demobilized. Lannister hosts marched west, Tyrell men south, Dornish home across deserts. Dragons nested in old First Keep under Daenerys' eye. Winterfell buzzed with artisans forging new sigils. 3 crowns entwined beneath rising sun. But winter's long shadow remained. Reports filtered that patches of forest still whispered with ghostly lights, residual magic unfaded. Maester Sam studied shards of Night King's armor, surmising deeper source west of Skagos. Melisandre dreamt of shadows coalescing in crypts below Winterfell, muttering that War of Dawn never ends, only sleeps. In quiet of library, Sansa penned letters, to Lady Olenna requesting grain for orphanages, to Yohn Royce about placing Vale Falcons in Order of Dawn, to Dorne seeking lemon groves for Winterfell's greenhouse. She paused, quill hovering, reflecting on seasons. A girl who dreamt of golden nights, now queen consort to a king who lived by mercy rather than steel. She wondered if songs would remember nuance, how cruelty can yield to kindness, how power can bow. One eve, she found Joffrey upon battlement, staring north where Aurora shimmered blue. He leaned on parapet, circlet tucked under arm. She slipped her hand into his. He spoke without turning. When I was little, I thought stars were holes in sky where light leaked from the other side. Now I feel those holes are promises we must keep filling. She rested head on his shoulder. Then let's become stonemasons of sky. Far below, in yard lit by torches, Arya sparred with Brienne, Needle Sister flicking flash silver arcs, Oathkeeper countering in elegant sweeps. Bran watched from wheelchair, eyes seeing more than yard, warging to rooks perched high. In kennels, Ghost and Grey Wind's pups tussled, unaware of thrones. And beyond seas, in shattered Valyria, an ancient stirring woke. Stone dragon hearts beating again, summoned by ripple of magic across world. But that is tale for another night. For now, Winterfell's chimneys puffed wood smoke, mingling with dragon-scented air, carrying upward toward frozen heavens of fragile warmth. Mercy's fire, banked but shining, holding dusk at bay. Snow blanketed Winterfell's courtyards in muffling drifts, each flake a silent vow that the long night could be held at bay. Yet within the castle's granite ribs heat and tension coiled together like twin serpents. Despite Daenerys' coronation, a dozen unresolved currents rippled through the new realm. Lords balked at debtor prison abolition, sailors muttered of taxes for a navy they had never needed, priests argued whether the Order of the Dawn blasphemed against the Seven, and in every tavern one heard the same uneasy refrain. How many crowns before the realm forgets who truly rules? Davos found Joffrey in the great kitchen before sunrise, sleeves rolled, helping scullions knead oat bread for the morning ration. The king's frosting dusty grin reminded Davos strangely of Shireen lighting candles in Storm's End's kitchens so many years ago. Before long, Davos said, they'll forge a wooden spoon on your sigil. Joffrey laughed and slid a loaf onto a peel. A crown that feeds is harder to lift in rebellion. Davos's smile faded. Harder still when knives come from shadows. He handed over a folded parchment inked in smudged charcoal. Salador's latest report from the Narrow Sea. Euron Greyjoy had sailed east of Lorith, raiding ghost isles for relics the priests of the drowned god called Fetters of Leviathan. Whatever grisly charms he dredged up, his silence now flew black sails painted with flayed lions. Joffrey wiped flour from fingers and traced the sigils. Father always claimed the Greyjoys sought purpose in malice. If so, we must deny them both. Grey Wind's howl rolled down battlements as dawn paled. Robb approached, Oathkeeper belted, face half hidden by wolf fur mantle. Patrols sighted mist on Last River, he reported. Could be nothing. Could be whites regrouping. Ned joined them, hair whipped silver. Order of the Dawn rides within the hour. I'll lead first detachment. Joffrey objected, but Ned's refusal was gentle iron. A council that sends others to die for peace cannot last. Robb clapped his father's shoulder. Then Grey Wind and I ride at your flank. Joffrey nodded, Ser Brienne leads 500 crownlanders. Tyrion drafts supply ledgers. I will not repeat Robert's folly of empty purses. Across the yard, Daenerys emerged from First Keep with Missandei and Queensguard twins. Ser Barristan's old office now filled by two former Unsullied elevated from ranks. Dragonfire shimmered on her cloak where Drogon perched atop the gatehouse arch. Vast wings folded like a cathedral's doors. She greeted Joffrey, voice crisp with sea-salted chill. Regal hunts well on White Knife Estuary. Fish for 10 villages in a single dive. Joffrey bowed. A boon to small folk, but more fear than praise will reach your ears. Daenerys' smile edged wry. I no longer measure approval in songs. Only in harvests spared and graves left empty. Together they watched Ned's column file out through Snowy Gate. Black dawn cloaks stitched with 7-pointed star, glimmer of dragonglass spear tips, banners of intertwined sigils. When the last hoofprint vanished on White Road, Daenerys spoke low. Every ruler I toppled died believing the world could not change. Let this realm prove them wrong. In the cellars beneath Winterfell, Bran's chamber thrummed with low pulse of magic. Roots of the heart tree coiled through stone, exuding slow sap that smelled of copper and cedar. Bran hovered in wheeled chair by a brazier, eyes white as moon milk. Arya leaned against lintel, arms folded, waiting. At last Bran returned to himself, pupils shrinking back from fathomless black. The roots remember storms yet to come, he whispered. Ravens screamed of krakens in flame. Arya straightened. Grey joys. Bran nodded faintly. Euron courts powers older than light. He means to wake things sunken. Arya's hand sought dagger at belt. Shall I go cut his throat? Bran's lips twitched. Steel cannot sever dream from dream, but there is a throat closer whose silence would spare thousands. Arya's eyes narrowed. The hall contained many throats. Tywin Lannister's solar once belonged to Stark Castellans. Now lion banners draped rough logs, a crimson wound on gray. Kevan poured warm cider while Tywin poured over vellum. Euron's pact, Cersei's hidden ledger of debts to Braavosi armsmen. Stannis' latest proclamation challenging elective rule. We cannot choke every mutiny, Kevan sighed. Tywin's gaze never lifted. We need not. We merely direct them against each other. He traced quill across parchment, repositioning tokens. Kraken ships off Arbor, Stannis' galleys in Blackwater Bay, Sells words along Dornish marches. We feed Stannis intelligence of Euron's atrocities. He will hunt the Kraken, leaving capital for us to steady. Kevan hesitated. And Daenerys? Tywin's jaw tightened. A dragon needs gold more than fear. We shall loan her both.
Door creaked.
Tyrion entered unannounced, ledger tucked beneath arm. Father, your parchments drip more blood than any battlefield. Tywin regarded him coolly. Ink is cheaper than suns. Tyrion's smile did not reach eyes. And yet you squandered so many. He tossed ledger onto desk. Lists of gold shipments missing from Casterly rock vaults since the war's height. Purchases of wildfire delivered to unnamed warehouses near the Sunset Sea. Accounting error? Kevan paled. Tywin snapped quill. You presume much. Tyrion leaned in. Presume? No.
I conclude.
Euron's ships will sail under wildfire banners. You mean to let them torch Old Town, blame Greyjoy King, levy armies under your own command. Slay 2 dragons with 1 kraken. Tywin rose, cloak sweeping. You forget yourself. I remember everything, Tyrion hissed, including screams of children on Blackwater's banks. Burn this realm again and mercy will not spare you. Tywin's eyes narrowed wolf-slit. Mercy, he echoed, is a mask boys wear while waiting to become men. Tyrion turned, voice like snapped harp string. Then pray you enjoy the masquerade, father. The dance ends sooner than you think. That night, in Maester Samwell's rookery tower, parchments rustled under lamplight as he and Gilly prepared dragonglass courier kits. Maps, coded messages, vials of obsidian dust for ravens to carry to watchposts. Ghost lay curled by hearth, red eyes watching. Jon entered, snow melting on cloak. Any word from Ned? Sam offered fresh letter. Ned's column had reached the last river, found Wayhall villages empty, hearths cold but untouched. John frowned. Too silent. Sam tapped another parchment marked in scratchy hand of a wildling outrider. Pale shapes flickering under ice of shivering sea ships, perhaps, crusted with frozen corpses. John exhaled a plume. Greyjoy sails. He turned to Ghost. Time for old tricks. He drafted missive to Asha at Deepwood Motte. Offer of leniency if she turn ironborn spears against Euron. Sealed with Night's Watch wax, it flew before moonset. Euron's silence knifed through slate waves west of Skagos. Figurehead of screaming mermaid dripping brine. Inside cabin thick with myrrh, Euron knelt before chest of oily wood. Breaking seal, he drew out 3 links of corroded black iron. Fetters claimed to have chained the ancient sea dragon, Naga. He set them upon chart, murmuring words in high Valyrian warped by drunkard's slur. The links writhed, exuding chill mist. Qyburn, pale and eager beside, recorded pulse of magic with copper stylus. Once welded to your prows, Qyburn croaked, they will bend the drowned god's marrow to your command. Euron's grin stretched. And what of lions? Qyburn produced stoppered flask, wildfire swirling bright as malachite. They roar loudest when aflame. Euron laughed, mad joy echoing off bones of ship. At Winterfell's eastern wall, Arya perched beside watchfire. Moonlight glinted on Needle's sister blade. Footsteps padded. Cersei emerged, hood shadowing golden hair, eyes prowling. Arya studied her, remembered a list whispered to the moon years past. But Bran's words coiled in her thoughts. A closer throat. Cersei paused at parapet, gazing toward forest. Her face, carved in bitter marble, softened an instant. Perhaps remembering Joffrey's swaddled infant, perhaps Jaime vanished wanderer. Arya's breath fogged. She heathed blade, stepped back into gloom. Some enemies, she decided, killed themselves slowly enough without her help. Within Great Hall, Daenerys convened First Assembly of Order of the Dawn. Cloaks of white-streaked gray fluttered among torchlight. She appointed Ser Davos as Master of Ships, Ser Brienne as Lady Commander of the North March, Grey Worm as Captain of Newgate at King's Landing, and Ser Balon Swan as Envoy to Braavos. Cheers rose, though Tywin sipped silently, marking each title given. After, Daenerys drew Joffrey aside. "Your mother," she warned, "dispenses honeyed wine among discontented lords." Joffrey's eyes darkened. Cersei traffics in resentment the way Varys traffics in whispers. "I will speak to her." "Speak softly," Daenerys said, "but carry your mercy sharp." He found Cersei in sept built among ruins of Winterfell's old bell tower, candles flickering before statues of the Seven. She knelt seemingly in prayer, but Joffrey saw flasks of vintage arbor red propped against pews. When she rose, eyes rimmed red, he bowed. "Mother!" She regarded him as though he were still 10, clutching wooden sword. "You kneel to wolves and dragons." He answered evenly. "I rise with them." Her laugh cracked. "Rise? You abdicated power to exile queen." She paced. "Mercy weakens lineage. Baratheon blood diluted by pack of savages." Joffrey's jaw tightened. "Savages saved your life when whites breached King's Landing's walls." Cersei sneered. "I saw gnashing dead once and learned fear is the steel of kings." She grasped his shoulder. "Come south. Retake throne with gold and fire. Let lions rule." Joffrey stepped back. "Lions may rule prairies, but kingdoms are forests. Many beasts thrive." He bowed again, left her with candles guttering. Behind him, he heard glass shatter. Days passed. Ned's detachment returned with refugees from New Gift. Gaunt farmers telling of eerie silence along coast, of mist that swallowed boats whole. They spoke of a horn blast at dusk, deep and booming, echoing from sea like call of Leviathan. Sam studied their tales, matching to scant legends of Naga's bones and horns carved from its ribs. Relics lost when old pikes slid into sea. Tyrion, hearing, cursed under breath. He remembered ledger entries for kraken horns purchased by Braavosi intermediaries. In council chamber, the dangers converged. Undead remnants gathering at Skagos, Euron's fleet bearing wildfire and ancient fetters, Stannis mustering lords of storms and to cleanse false queens, Braavos threatening embargo if debts unpaid. Daenerys traced blade tip along tabletop map, carving small gouges. We fight on many shores. Joffrey suggested splitting Triune. Daenerys sail dragons south to parley or burn Stannis. Aegon patrol narrow sea with Reach fleet. Robb guard north coast. Ned objected, divide and perish. But time pressed like ice. While tempers flared, Bran's raven fluttered into hall. Scroll tied with root fiber. Tyrion unrolled. Thorny runes sketched by Bran's own vision. 3 crowns melted into single river of gold. Kraken tentacle entwined around falling star. And beneath, single word, dusk, puzzled murmurs. Arya stepped from shadow, reading, Duskendale. Ned frowned. Small port south of King's Landing, long ruined but near garrison of Stannis. Sam recalled whisper of wildfire warehouses near Sunset Sea. Duskendale, though east, once stored saltpeter used in wildfire. Tywin's face remained blank stone. Daenerys decided, we cannot wait. She would fly Library Dragon Regal with Grey Worm and Light Company to Duskendale at dusk 2 days hence. Scout for barrels bearing lion or kraken sigils. Joffrey volunteered Brienne and Crownlander archers. Tyrion would sail upstream via narrow cogs to cut off sea escape. Ned would reinforce White Harbor, anticipate undead drift. Aegon, chafing, offered Copper Dragon to escort Daenerys. She accepted. Night before departure, Winterfell hosted modest feast. Oatcakes, salted cod, preserved peaches gifted by Dorne. Joffrey toasted to absent Sandor Clegane, rumored to have opened hospice for orphans in Riverlands, then to memory of Marjorie Tyrell, who died saving children in King's Landing fire. Daenerys toasted to unsung heroes buried by snow. A hush fell when Cersei rose, cup clutched too tightly. To the day, she slurred. Merciful crowns can afford mercy no longer. Silence heavy as lead. Tyrion sprang to feet, urging her to sit. Cersei stared at sun, tears glimmering. You are no lion, she whispered. Only a cub raised by sheep. She hurled cup. Wine splashed across weirwood panel. She staggered out. Guards did not follow. Arya shadowed her through frostlit corridors to Bell Tower where wildfire had once licked. Cersei gripped stone sill, breathing ragged. Arya watched from gloom. Cersei withdrew small vial. Rat poison. Arya exhaled, stepping forward. Wine tastes better than death.
Cersei spoon.
Little wolf. Arya met her gaze. If you wish end, find purpose first. There is war enough. She pressed dagger hilt into Cersei's palm. Steel is kinder than poison. Cersei stared, confusion mingling with dawning spark, pride or hatred. Arya vanished. Whether Queen drank or sharpened dagger, fate would decide. Duskendale awaited beneath pastel sunset, its half-collapsed docks creaking like old bones. Daenerys and Aegon spiraled overhead on dragons, wings fanning salty dusk. From vantage, she saw black-sailed ships moored beyond reef, kraken sigil faint in failing light. On shore, warehouses newly patched exhaled chemical stench. Barrels branded with lion paws stacked 6 high. Grey Worm signaled unsullied to encircle. Daenerys landed amid storm of dust, cloak snapping. Euron emerged from shadows, arms spread, fetter links wound around bare chest. He bowed flamboyantly. Dragon Queen, Stag Cub, Wolf Pack, small world. Grey Worm leveled spear.
Euron smiled.
Did you bring mercy? I prefer screams. Behind him, skittering shapes emerged. Reanimated sailors, eyes luminous green, wildfire whites, corpses saturated in volatile alchemy, their touch sparking flame. With shriek they lunged. Barrels ignited, emerald plumes roaring skyward. Chaos erupted. Regal roared, flame meeting wildfire. Explosion rippled, throwing Daenerys against rubble. Aegon's copper dragon grappled a burning white, talons shearing but flesh igniting scales. Grey Worm's spear shattered barrel, dousing white in inert pitch. Unsullied formed phalanx, fighting fire with sand and shields. Euron dashed through smoke toward skiff, laughing. Daenerys rose, coughing smoke. She saw Euron push off pier, fetter links glowing sickly blue. Water roiled, colossal silhouette rising. Serpent of barnacled bone summoned by sea sorcery. Surged, maw opening, brine cascading. Aegon dived, dragon flame scoring serpent's hide, but blue mist quenched fire. Daenerys mounted regal, sword, issuing command. Aegon wheeled. They circled opposite sides, weaving twin fire streams to encase serpent, forming furnace of hurricane flame. Water boiled, steam clouded. Serpent writhed, fetters pulsing until they cracked. With ear-splitting roar, creature collapsed into seething surf, fetters shattering. On shore, wildfire whites stuttered as fetters broke. Their flames sputtered, corpses dropping. Grey Worm rallied archers to douse remaining barrels before chain reaction consumed town. Through rift and smoke, Euron's skiff slipped seaward. Tyrion's cogs emerged from channel, ballistae loaded, but Euron veered into shallows where reef deterred pursuit. A final wave of his hand and silence swallowed him. Night claimed Duskendale smoldering but standing. Daenerys ordered wounded aboard medical barge. She found Aegon kneeling by Copper Dragon's scorched wing. "She'll heal," Daenerys soothed. Aegon's eyes reflected flame. Greyjoy wielded dead like puppets. "He will come again." Daenerys nodded. "Then we cut his strings." She strode to pier, reclaimed fragment of fetter still intact, metal humming faint. "We send this to Samwell. Let maesters learn sea magic secrets before krakens wake anew." She touched Regal's warm scales. Fire answered sorcery. It will again. Winterfell received Raven at dawn. Tyrion's dispatch detailed Euron's escape. Wildfire whites vanquished, barrels destroyed. Sam studied fetter shard delivered by Swift Owl. He traced glyphs corroded into iron. "Old Valyrian," he muttered. But twisted. He deciphered phrase, "Chain the tide of stars." Bran, eyes milky, whispered, "Stars fall when oceans rise."
Sam shivered.
Councils convened anew. Daenerys returned, face soot-smudged but eyes alight. She relayed Serpent's demise. Lords quailed. If Krakenhorn could stir sea dragons, what next? Robb urged immediate assault on Pike, cut Euron at root. Daenerys agreed, dragons to scorch fleets before horns forged anew. Tywin insisted Lannister resources already stretched. Propose instead blockade forcing capitulation. Joffrey sided with strike, decisive blow. Council split. Tyrion proposed cunning. Infiltrate Pike with small team, destroy foundry forging fetters, steal blueprint. Arya volunteered, face already shifting to ironborn washerwoman she once studied. Brienne insisted on joining. Jon too, citing knights watch neutrality. Daenerys approved. Euron's horn must never sound amid crowded ports. Preparations commenced. Meanwhile, Queen Cersei's chambers stood empty. Candles guttered to wax lumps, bed unslept. Note pinned to pillow, inked in her sharp hand. "Lions hunt alone." Joffrey read, face a map of grief and resolve. He folded it, tucked within jerkin above heart. Before dawn, Ned's patrol returned, bearing grim trophy. Broken horn carved of pallid bone found on Skerry near Skagos, its mouth rimmed with dried blood. Horn surface etched with same glyphs as fetter. Bran touched it, gasped, vision of shadow-wreathed figure raising horn to lips, but face blurred, crown of coral and bone upon brow. Not Euron, something older. Bran warned council. Horns in enemy hands, horns unknown. Sam urged destruction. They cast horn into Smithy's hottest forge. It cracked, keening sound rippling like whale song. Flames dimmed blue before horn melted, slag hissing like curses. Under moonless sky, black-sailed fury. A swift Drummond slipped from White Harbor bearing Arya, Brienne, Jon, Davos, and handful of Dawn scouts toward Pike. Ghost padded deck silently. The voyage across Iron Man's bay bit with razor wind. Arya sharpened Needle's sister blade by lantern while Brienne polished Oathkeeper. Jon studied Euron's sailing patterns, mapping likely anchorages. Davos muttered prayers to Mother for calm seas. All new stealth might fail. Steel could finish task. In Winterfell, Daenerys drilled young Order recruits, Sansa among them, refusing idle throne. She practiced archery on straw mannequins painted Kraken green. Joffrey watched, heart tight with pride and fear. He joined her at range, loosing arrow that thudded beside her mark. She laughed. King of Mercy becomes Archer of Storm. He smiled, then sobered. Storm yet to break. He revealed Cersei's note. Sansa's brow furrowed. She will move against you. He nodded. But I will not hunt my own mother. Sansa squeezed his hand. She will make that choice for you. Mercy does not abandon self-defense. Tywin conferred with Daenerys privately. The realm teeters between Kraken's maw and Stannis' righteous blade. We must secure Blackwater's mouth. Daenerys agreed, though wary. Lion's Council ever hid claws. Tywin outlined plan. Dispatch Lannister fleet to garrison Dragonstone, preventing Stannis from seizing ancestral seat. In exchange, Daenerys would guarantee Lannisters 8 seats on Triune Council. She consented to 4, citing balance. Tywin's lips thinned, but he nodded. Alliance sealed, for now. Pike emerged from storm mist, spires jagged like snapped bones, waves smashing cliffs. Fury dropped anchor behind ruined rib of rock, landing party rowing through foam. Arya led, disguised voice calling past to drunken sentry. She slid blade under chin before he could blink. Brienne and Jon followed, dispatching lookouts. They crept along dripping causeways, ghosting past rusted chains. Inside foundry carved into hollow sea stack, forges roared, iron-born smiths hammering massive rings of strange metal, new fetters. Qyburn supervised, face slick with sweat. At Forge's heart, green wildfire cauldron simmered. Arya signaled. Jon and Brienne slipped among crates, planting dragonglass grenades rigged by Tyrion. Ghost darted, spooking rats. Davos commandeered Crane to hoist cauldron aside. Memory of Blackwater still searing his nightmares. Alarm horn blared. A boy spotted shadow moves. Chaos erupted. Ironborn surged. Brienne's sword sang. Jon parried triple axes. Arya spun through gaps, daggers blooming crimson. Davos swung crane boom, smashing platform. Qyburn shrieked, fled toward cliff tunnel. Arya pursued, tackling him on narrow bridge above surf. In scuffle, Qyburn slipped, screaming until waves silenced. Grenades detonated. Forge shuddered, fetters snapping molten sparks. Wildfire ignited, green column punching sky. Landing party scrambled through side tunnel as tower imploded behind. On cliff ledge, Euron emerged, patch torn away revealing empty socket bleeding sky blue tears. He roared rage, hurling axe that embedded near Jon. Brienne advanced, Euron retreated, whistling. From chasm below, Leviathan tentacle whipped, crashing onto ledge. Euron bound fetter fragment to stump of mast, summoning sea monster anew. Jon shouted retreat. Arya fired arrow with dragonglass rope head. It lodged in creature's eye. Its screech shook stone. Davos cut more line. Fury's catapult fired iron bolt tethered with barrels of pitch. Bolt slammed into tentacle. Brienne severed cable. Jon hurled torch. Barrels exploded, creature thrashing back into sea, pulling Euron with. Whirlpool swallowed both. Landing party leapt onto launch as foundry collapsed in fiery cataract. They rode toward Fury under hail of debris. Pike burned behind, purple dawn glowering through ash plume. Mission done but cost unknown. Winterfell's ravens brought word. Stannis had sailed north of Narrow Sea, circumventing Lannister blockade, landing near Crackclaw Point with Sellsword Company. Black banners with fiery heart marched inland. Tywin's fleet pinned at Dragonstone by storms, unable to redeploy. Triune Council fretted, 2 fronts again. Daenerys read Arya's coded report. Fetter Forge destroyed, Euron vanished. She exhales relief, yet horns may exist elsewhere. She ordered Drogon and Rhaegal to Blackwater's approach, intends to intercept Stannis before he crosses Blackwater Rush. Joffrey begged to accompany. She refused. King of Mercy must hold Winterfell's heart. Instead, he pledged 3,000 Crownlanders to support. Robb rode south with order detachment to shore up Riverlands. Ned remained in north, healing Seat. Bran sat roots, searching sea dreams. On moor above Maidenpool, Daenerys' host confronted Stannis' ranks arrayed like storm clouds. Snow whirled despite summer's ghost. Melisandre advanced, red cloak infernal against gray. She called Daenerys usurper of prophecy, claiming Lightbringer awaited only King's sacrifice of Dragon Queen's blood. Daenerys answered with flame. Drogon's roar drowned priest's chants. Yet Melisandre stood amid blast, ruby blazing, flames parting like curtain. She raised obsidian blade, pointed skyward, blood leapt from her palm, weaving into fiery sigils. Battle erupted. Stormland's men fought with grim resolve, but Dragonfire and unsullied discipline carved lanes. Stannis charged atop Warhorse, swinging Valyrian longsword looted from Storm's End armory. Daenerys met his gaze from Drogon's back, sadness flickering. Another man bound by righteousness. She commanded Drogon to bank, scorching earth before horse. Beast reared, Stannis' throne. Ser Davos, torn between loyalty and new vows, spurred forward, dismounted, knelt beside fallen lord once friend. "It ends," Davos whispered. Stannis, eyes glazed, saw only failure. He pressed sword into Davos's hands. "Serve realm," he rasped, breath fading. Melisandre screamed fury, ruby cracking. Crack echoed sky as unnatural lightning split clouds. From rift fell shards of red fire, meteors, molten stone. One struck field, exploding. Soldiers scattered. Drogon circled, blowing gusts to snuff cursed flames. Melisandre fled into woods, shrieking prophecy undone. When dust settled, Stannis dead, his men laid down weapons. Davos wept, sword heavy. Daenerys dismounted, clasped his shoulder. "Your honor stands."
Davos shitbled, Brauwet.
His flame burned too bright to last. Back at Winterfell, news arrived alongside Fury's return. Arya delivered Qyburn's journal salvaged from waterlogged pouch. Diagrams of fetter forging, mention of Horn of Stormbreaker, hidden at Casterly Rock. Tywin denied knowledge but face whitened. Bran confirmed with vision. Horn buried in cliffs beneath Rock's seaward face. Tyrion confronted father again. Yield the horn or realm burns. Tywin stared into distance. Moments passed. He spoke at last. Some fires must cleanse. That night, a riderless horse galloped into courtyard, saddlebags carrying Tywin's signet ring and map to Horn's crypt. Joffrey realized. His grandfather rode alone to see cliffs, perhaps to destroy Horn or wield it. Scouts followed dawn light. They found cave mouth caved in, rubble still warm. No sign of Tywin, only blackened shards of bone horn, fissures glowing faint gold. Ocean crashed below. Tyrion stood silent, tears cutting soot on cheeks. Bran later whispered Tywin had sacrificed himself to break Horn, binding its power with blood of lion. Mercy found unlikely vessel. Weeks folded into first whispers of spring. Small folk planted fields fertilized by ash. Dragons warmed furrows with gentle breaths, accelerating thaw. Markets reopened along King's Road. Sales of trade cogs filled again. The Order of the Dawn rotated garrisons. Ghost-sired pups at Castle Black Kennels. Sansa's orphanages brewed first barrels of onion soup. Davos's dish now symbol of hope. On day stars burned bright without moon. Triune Council gathered by Heart Tree. Daenerys set crown aside upon carved root, as charter required for council equality. Joffrey, Aegon, Robb, Tyrion, Jon, Sansa, Brienne, Grey Worm, Davos, Arya, Sam, all present. Bran spoke from chair of entwined roots, voice echoing deeper than boys. Ice and fire shall contend so long as men dream, but dreamers now wake to mercy's dawn. He raised hand. Roots shifted, revealing shoot sprouting pale leaf. First green bud of heart tree in decades. Gasps rippled. Bran smiled faint. Life endures. Daenerys looked to Joffrey. 3 crowns have paid first tithe. 10 years hence, ours may pass to others. But seeds we plant today, she gestured to Bud, shall shade our children. Joffrey nodded. The realm will remember. They clasped hands, all present joining. Circle closed around Heart Tree. Above, Aurora shimmered not bleak green but rosy gold, dancing like curtain of dawn. And deep beneath waves where kraken stirred, silence reigned. For now. But stories, like seasons, end only for new chapters to dawn. In distant Valyria, volcanoes rumbled. Stone dragons cracked scales. A lonely sail of black and red-edged horizon, carrying whispers of fire eternal. Yet in the halls of Winterfell, laughter rose, mingling with hearth smoke, and for the first time in living memory, the realm dared an exhale that did not taste of ash. Mercy, hard won, glowed ember bright. Fragile, yes, but enough to light 5 hours, 5 years, perhaps 5 generations, if hands remained steady and hearts remained brave.